I was a cub for 1 year when I was about age 10, and the motto was the same as it is for Scouts: be prepared. I guess when a child moves up from being a beaver, then a cub, then a scout, the maturity level invokes a stronger sense of being prepared. I know that Baden-Powell, the founder of the Scouting movement, was a Christian, and perhaps he may have been sitting in church on the first Sunday of Advent and heard Jesus' words to the disciples to stay awake, and may have had an eureka moment to come up with the motto, be prepared. I'm not sure that this was the way it was for him, but thinking about it, it could be something that may have happened. However, I'm really not sure. I suppose the motto would express being ready for any type of eventuality that would require action. So as we begin our new liturgical year, we continue where we left off. As I mentioned at the beginning of our Mass today, we acknowledged last week that Christ as our leader, through being the King, or Christ as we've celebrated Christ the King, it's a pivotal moment as we move through the sense of time. And when we look at it, Christ has been our leader in the past, Christ is our leader today, and Christ continues to be our leader into the future. So the season of Advent invites us to keep going, and we remember what Christ has already done for us, and we look forward to celebrate his birth and to have a moment or a movement toward a constant renewal. And we know that our life with Christ continues as Christianity has been around for a long time. Notice that when Jesus tells his disciples to be aware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come, he's not trying to frighten them. He is giving practical advice to not give up on him and what God the Father has in store for them and for those who follow him. That concludes us right here in the waning days of 2020. The words of Christ are very appropriate for us for us today. Since Christ walked with us 2,000 years ago, we can observe that we may have fallen off of being ready to meet our God face to face. The expectation in the time of St. Paul and following years was that Christ would return very soon. And, of course, we are still waiting for that return. We profess that he will come back every time we come to Mass, following the consecration with the memorial acclamation. And our thoughts could move us to say, what's taking him so long to return? But we don't need to know the exact date or time of when he will come back, since we experience him every time we come to Mass in the Eucharist. We communicate with him through our prayers, and we know that in our hearts, through our union with him in baptism, that he's present in each of us. As human beings, we already know that, yet we tend to slack off and think that, well, it will still be a while before Christ returns. In the meantime, we may find ourselves being busy with things that are concerning for us, and these may give way to the forces that pull us away from practicing our faith. There are the pressures of modern living, such as how are we going to pay the mortgage, or pay for our children's education, or putting food on the table. These are very many practical things that may come in our way. The materialistic outlook in which a political approach is taken so that we may get all that we want when we want it. This leads to attacks on church teachings where there is a suggestion that the church is behind the times and that we can live a disposable life without regard for the environment. So what is it that we need to stay awake for? And what is there to illuminate our way forward? How do we use the light of Christ to be ready, to be prepared? I think sometimes we spend a lot of time trying to figure out when something will happen in the future, but most of the time we are looking for a coming disaster. Curiosity is our nature. And again, Jesus reminds us to not worry about the end of the world. And Mark's gospel is very concise and to the point. We need only concern ourselves about living his teachings every day. When the time comes for the end of the world or the end of our lives, we have lived in a just and loving way like him. God has given us the ability to learn and to grow in the relationship that we have with him. And we have a great opportunity to serve and to grow into being seen as being in his image, just as he has created us right from the beginning. Our parish theme for the season of Advent and Christmas is Shine in Our Hearts. And as we renew ourselves with him, we ask the Lord to illuminate our hearts, to be his beacon to those around us. As his light shines within the core of our being, we extend beyond ourselves. Today's first reading selection comes from near the end of the book of the prophet Isaiah. The people called upon God to have compassion and pity on them. They were frustrated and knew that they had said ill comments about God. They recognized this by their outward demonstrations of sinfulness. They acknowledged the seriousness of where this outward display was coming from, and they knew that God was with them all that time and that he provided for them. And yet, they also knew that their actions pushed God away. They snuffed out the light within them, as we heard in their plea to the Lord. But you were angry, and we sinned. Because you hid yourself, we transgressed. Because they lost patience with God, they wondered where he was. They ended up failing to stay awake and missed the cues that he was giving them, that he was not far from them. Notice that our patron saint always starts his letters in the same fashion. He begins by always thanking God on behalf of the Christian community in which he is writing to because of the things that God has done for them. And if you have a chance to read the second reading today, you will see that formula that he uses. And it might also be a good idea to check out the other letters that he wrote and watch for that same thing. Our second reading today shows that St. Paul approves of the gifts that the Corinthians received, but he strongly disapproves of how they have misused their gifts. Paul reveals that it is not enough to have the gift that has been given to Christians, but that the gift is to involve giving witness to Jesus. So in order for that to be valid, the gifts that the Lord gives us are not only for our individual use, but to solidify the body of Christ. In essence, it is really a community effort. Our parish Advent theme, Shine in Our Hearts, hopefully inspires us to not seek solely for our own individual needs, but to be shared for everyone so that we are companions on the journey. It's not so much as to what I do or what do I benefit to being a Christian, as it is that the Lord has given me something very precious, that I want to share this with everyone so that the light within us brightens those around us. So a question for us to ponder is this how I reveal Jesus Christ? Do I allow the light that is within me, shining in my heart, illuminate those around me? Or is it only about me and Christ and forgetting about the others? Jesus taught many times that he is mysteriously present in the sick, the hungry, the poor, just as he is mysteriously present in the bread and the wine, which become his body and blood in the Eucharist. I came across a story as I was preparing for this homily about a Russian writer by the name of Turgenev. where he tells how once a man came up from behind him in church and stood behind him. He had an overpowering sensation that the man was Christ, yet when he turned around, it was just a face like any other. "What sort of Christ is this?" he said, only gradually realizing that Christ's face is the face of any one of his people. So just as the people in the time of the first Christmas were unprepared for the coming of the Christ, we welcome him this Christmas in our own unpreparedness that has been entrusted upon us through this pandemic. So during this Advent, in which God comes to us in our hearts, may we be renewed then and fashioned into his very image every day, just as we heard that the potter molds the clay, since we are the work of his hands. We are his, and we may allow that Jesus will shine in our hearts.